In Chapter 8, we'll provide a demonstration of some of the other features available within NetConnect. It's important to note that several of these features are only available under limited circumstances, however they do deliver great value to customers. Before you begin this chapter, you'll need an installed and licensed NetConnect server and access to the admin portal. Now, you'll require several other items depending on the features that you're looking to install. It's unlikely that you'll have all of these available. Indeed, it's unlikely that all of the features mentioned in this chapter will be applicable to the environments you plan to deploy NetConnect to in any case. For this reason, we'll list the requirements on a per feature basis from this point. In this chapter, we're going to show you how to configure a MyDesktop application, SSH Telnet access, RDP via VNC, RDP sessions via port forwarder, web via Reverse Proxy, and our SSL VPN client. MyDesktop can be used to provide quick and easy access to end users' physical desktops or laptops. Using MyDesktop provides administrators with a single application to manage, removing the need to create an individual application for each potential endpoint. The application connects to a specific desktop by referencing a specific attribute within the Active Directory, which is populated with the IP address or host name of the individual user's physical device. Let's take a look at how this works because it's probably easier to see than it is to explain. All you require for this application is a destination PC and access to your Active Directory. So first of all, we'll log on to the admin portal and navigate through to Authentication Settings, vRealm Management. Select a realm which is utilizing LDAP authentication and click on Edit Stage. Then simply scroll down to the MyDesktop settings. You'll need to nominate an attribute that isn't used in your environment. We typically find the fax field is available, so we'll use that one here. Once you've entered the information and clicked on the Submit button, we'll be able to create a MyDesktop application. So we'll navigate through to Application, Configuration, and click on Create New Application. Now we'll call this MyDesktop, nice and original, and we'll set the application protocol as Remote Application. Now the first thing to do here is set the remote application type as MyDesktop, and you'll straight away notice that several options have been grayed out as they're simply not required anymore. We'll enter the domain details, save the app, and quickly set up single sign-on. There we go. Next, we'll need to log on to the Active Directory and make sure that user has something in their fax field, because remember that's what NetConnect will be referencing when the application is launched. If that field doesn't have a destination in there, the application will fail. Now in this instance, we're using a field within a telephone tab, and there you go, the host name's there and ready to use. So now we're happy that everything appears to be in place. Let's allocate the app to the trainee user and then sign in. There we go, and if we open up the app, that's worked as expected. We've established a connection to a destination PC without actually specifying that PC within the application. So now all you have to do to give another user access to their physical workstation is simply ensure their IP or hostname is entered into that same Active Directory field on their profile and publish the application to them. Simple. NetConnect can also be used to provide access to Linux or legacy hardware via SSH or TelNet protocol. This could include switches, routers, PABXs, and a host of other devices with support for one of these protocols. These applications are created and managed in the same fashion as other applications, so let's run through the process to demonstrate. If you wish to follow these steps, you'll need a device that can be connected to via SSH or TelNet. Okay, so from the admin portal, we'll navigate through to Applications Configuration and click on Create New Application. We'll be showing SSH access in this instance, so let's call this application SSH Server, and again, this will be a remote application. We'll populate the full address field with the address of the device that you wish to connect to, and then we'll select Application Protocol here as SSH. And that's it. We'll save the application, allocate it to our trainee user, and if we go back and log on as a trainee user, there we go. We can see that application on the desktop, and if we launch it, excellent. We can see our SSH session ready to go. Another feature within NetConnect is the ability to publish applications via VNC protocol. This enables access to any home edition machines you may have on a network, or the ability to share a screen. To configure access to a PC via VNC, it must have VNC installed and running, so we'll quickly cover off this process. We recommend using Type VNC in this instance. It's free and it does everything we need. The URL for that download page is on your screen right now. Once you downloaded Type VNC, you'll need to run the installer, and if you're happy with the T's and C's, click accept, and we're going to go with a custom install. Now, we don't need the VNC viewer, so we'll opt out of installing this component. We'll click next, ensure all the additional tasks are ticked, and proceed to install. You'll be prompted to configure a password for authentication, so make a note of this as it's going to be required when you're connecting to the NetConnect application. Note, if the password you select here is the same as the password for your destination PC, you will be able to configure single sign-on. Once you create the password, complete the installation. The next step is to configure the VNC client, so we'll find it in the taskbar, right-click and select Configuration. The first thing we'll do here is uncheck the Serve Java Viewer to Web Clients box. You'll also need to note down the port number, which is likely to be the default 5900. Finally, click on the Access Control tab and add the IP address of your NetConnect server and ensure the action is set to allow. Now your endpoint has been set up, we can proceed with creating the application. So let's open up NetConnect, log in and go to the admin panel and navigate through to Applications, Configuration and click on Create New Application. We'll call this one VNC app, and again it will be a remote application. Populate the full address field with the IP or host name of the PC we've installed VNC onto, and here we'll select the remote protocol as VNC. Check that the server port matches the port configured on the VNC client a moment ago and save the application. Then all we need to do is allocate it to our trainee user and we can try it out. So let's log in, go to the web top, and there we go. So we're prompted for the password we configured a little earlier on. So if we enter that and click connect, excellent. We've got access to our destination PC via VNC. NetConnect provides an application which utilizes the standard Windows Remote Desktop Connection application to establish an RDP session. This application provides features not currently available within our HTML5 client, such as dual screen support, drive redirection, and full copy-paste. However, it does rely on components which are no longer supported by several browsers, meaning the application is now limited to only Safari and Internet Explorer. To utilize this application, the PC you're connecting from will need to have Java installed. So let's quickly run through that process. First up, we'll need to navigate through to the Java download page, which you can see on your screen now. Once downloaded, we'll run through the standard installation procedure. We'll speed things up here because it does take a few minutes. And then once that's done, we'll log into the admin portal and create the port forwarder application. So let's navigate through to Applications, Configuration, and click on Create New Application. We'll call this one Port Forwarder App, and once again this will be a remote application. Populate the full address field with the IP or host name of the destination as usual. Leave the remote protocol as RDP, but switch the HTML5 client option to off. We'll configure the domain, and if you look at the advanced features here, you'll see that several options which were previously grayed out are now available, including multi-monitor support and drive redirection. So we'll save that and we'll set up single sign-on. And we'll also allocate the application to some users. In fact, why don't we give it to the whole vRealm this time for a change? Excellent. Now, when it comes to using the app, remember you'll need to use Internet Explorer. So let's navigate to our instance via Internet Explorer. Log in. Find the application. There it is, and we'll launch it. Now, you'll see the Java Port Forwarder applet starting in the lower right-hand side. This will be followed by a series of checks that you'll need to accept on the first run. You can opt not to show these in future. Now it may take a moment or two the first time as all the relevant files are being downloaded to support the connection, but once they're finished you will have access to your app like so. There we go. Web-based intranet applications can be published securely via our Web via Reverse Proxy application, or WRP. This allows remote and traveling users access to internal resources without exposing them to the outside world, so it's pretty helpful. Now, this application does not provide full support for all intranets, and as such it's currently undergoing a bit of a refresh. While we recommend testing it to see if the feature is compatible with your internal resources, we cannot guarantee that it's going to work on all environments. Now, if you don't have an intranet site, you can follow this part of the training by using the Northbridge Secure site as shown in the video. So to create a WRP application, log into the admin portal and navigate through to the usual Applications, Configuration, and then select Create New Application. Now we'll call this one WRP app, nice and catchy, and we'll select the application protocol as Web via Reverse Proxy. Now there are several parameters that may need to be adjusted depending on the nature of the endpoint, but in this instance we're publishing our website, so the first thing we'll do is enter the full URL into the application URL field. Now we'll just copy that, leaving out the HTTP, HTTPS section because we'll need that in a few moments. Let's click Modify to create the app and then go back to the application configuration page, select the app and click on Policy Rules. Now all WRP applications must have at least one policy rule that specifies the connection is allowed, else users will be denied access. So for this policy rule, we're simply going to add the URL to the host address field. There we go. Now if the URL you're connecting to is HTTPS, as ours is here, be sure to change the port from the default port 80 to 443. Now once the policy is applied, assign the application to the trainee user, we'll log into that account and launch the application, and there we go. We can now access an intranet page via our NetConnect instance. Now, as mentioned a moment ago, this application can be a bit tricky, so if you do have any issues getting this one going, just reach out to the customer support guys and we'll help you out. Finally, we're going to show how to configure and connect to a network using the NetConnect SSL Tunnel feature. This can be a very useful feature if a user is working off network and needs access to secure files directly. Now, before a user can use a tunnel client, we need to configure NetConnect to allow access to the specific network. By default, this will be the network that NetConnect resides on, but this can be configured to add additional subnets as required. Now, keep in mind you will need a valid SSL certificate for your tunnel client to work. So let's begin by navigating through to Services, Tunnel, General Properties, and here we'll see the most common options required for a standard configuration. In our case, we'll leave the majority of these as default, and you can refer to the configuration documents for detail on each of these fields as needed. Now for this part of the training, we'll highlight a couple of the options which you'll need to be familiar with. Firstly, tunnel routing mode. Now this defines how the traffic will be managed through the tunnel connection and comes with three options. You have either default, which will direct all traffic intended for the internet through the tunnel, excluding local traffic. You have split mode. This means that only traffic destined for the company's infrastructure or subnets are accessible through the tunnel client. And finally, you have all traffic. Now this means that all traffic, both internal and external, will be routed through the client. In addition to this, users will be unable to access any other network unless defined within the NetConnect settings. Now for this exercise, we'll leave the setting here as default. The next option we want to talk about is the IP address of the tunnel interface. Now this specifies the IP address that will be given to the tunnel client. And finally, we'll have a quick look at client IP address range. Now this is where we define the range of the IP addresses that can be assigned to a user when they connect via the tunnel. This must be a valid IP range, and it must have enough addresses in the range to cater for the amount of users who will be connecting. Now once we've configured the tunnel settings to our specific requirements, we'll need to download the client and install onto the machine we wish to connect from. To download the client, simply navigate through to Services, Downloadable Components, and select either the Windows 64-bit or the Mac OS client installer. The installer is not user specific, so once you've downloaded it once, you can distribute it to your users as required. Now run the installer, and once that's completed, you can search for NetConnect SSL Tunnel on your PC or navigate through to the location up on your screen now and run the client. Enter the remote host details as the URL of your NetConnect environment. So here we'll put support.northbridgesecure.com and click connect. Now once that's successfully resolved, you'll be prompted to enter your username and password and the vRealm you want to connect through to, and click here. Once the information has been validated, you'll be able to view the connection icon within the taskbar. If we right click on this and view properties, we'll be able to see the information regarding the connection.